nervous system. Now, the nervous system is split into two basic parts when we talk about the anatomy of the nervous system. What are those two parts?
Central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system.
The central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. What are the parts of the central nervous system?
Brain and spinal cord.
The brain and the spinal cord. What parts of the brain? All of the brain, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about a couple of the different parts of the brain. What are some of the parts of the brain that we need to talk about?
The cerebrum,
The cerebrum. What is the cerebrum?
the big part of it.
It's the big part of it. That's really good. Nicely done. It's the gray part, or what we normally refer to as gray matter. And what does the cerebrum do?
Controls movement, hearing, balance, speech, visual perception, emotions, and personality.
Ooh, did you read that directly out of your text?
I read it out of my notes. Thank
That
you.
you copied directly out of your text?
No.
Okay, what are the four lobes? Okay, so the cerebrum is split into two halves, right? You've got a right and left cerebrum. And in each of the cerebra, you have a lobe. And what are the four lobes of the cerebrum?
Parietal,
Okay, do they match with something that we've already learned?
the bones,
The bones, yeah. So what are the lobes of the cerebrum? Parietal,
frontal, temporal, and occipital.
and in the cerebrum, the left side of your cerebrum manages the activity on the right side of your body. Okay, so they crisscross, and they manage opposite sides, right? Okay, what's another part of the brain?
Cerebellum,
The cerebellum. And what is the cerebellum responsible for?
body movements,
Body movement. Most specifically, fine motor skills. Okay? So your book says that without the cerebellum, very specialized muscular activities such as writing would be impossible. So you could probably still do things like throw, but it might be hard for you to type, or it might be hard for you to paint if you did not have the cerebellum. Okay. What is the brainstem?
it's what the brain sits on.
Pardon?
It's what the brain sits on.
It's what the brain sits on, yeah. So the brainstem is also called your hindbrain or your lizard brain. What activities happen in your brainstem? What is your brainstem responsible for?
Functions that are necessary for life.
Functions that are necessary for life. So what are those functions?
Breathing,
Breathing,
digestion, I don't know.
more heart rate, blood pressure, respiratory rate. So if your brainstem starts to get squished, remember when we were talking about this guy and how sometimes in head injuries, what happens right here? The brainstem gets squished out through this hole and it causes damage to, causes the brainstem to get squished. And what happens to your vital signs? Your heart rate and your respiratory rate.
Not good things.
Pardon?
Not good things.
Not good things, yeah.
They
Not
slow
good
down.
things.
I
What?
imagine either.
Slow down.
They start to slow down. Why do they start to slow down?
It's not being regulated by the brainstem anymore.
I didn't hear you, Corey.
It's not being regulated by the brainstem anymore.
The signal that's coming from your brainstem is kind of getting squished, right? So if you think about, have you ever played with Play-Doh? And you know how Play-Doh is a nice, you have a nice ball of Play-Doh until you start to squish it. When you start to squish it, it starts squeezing out between your fingers. And the signal that was in your brainstem, when your brainstem starts squeezing out between your fingers, the signal doesn't flow as well. Because the signal doesn't flow as well, your brainstem and the functions that are associated with it don't function as well anymore. Does that make sense? Okay, so if we have an injury to the head that causes swelling in our brain and we have our brainstem getting pushed down into the, what is this hole called?
The foramen magnum.
Foramen magnum, good. Yeah, so swelling in the brain that causes our brainstem to get pushed down into the foramen magnum, we will see that as lowered vital signs, lowered pulse, lowered respiratory rate, lowered blood pressure. Okay, it's called Beck's triad, actually. Or maybe Beck's triad has increased blood pressure. I have to look it up. Okay, so we have the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, we also have two different parts of the nervous system, not just anatomically, but physiologically. What are those two parts of the nervous system?
Somatic.
Somatic and
Autonomic.
autonomic. So what does the somatic nervous system do? What is it responsible for?
Voluntary.
So muscle movement, right?
Yep.
And what is the autonomic nervous system responsible for?
Involuntary.
So breathing, heart rate, digestion, those types of things. Now, to a certain point, your breathing is voluntary. Can you hold your breath? Can you hold your breath forever?
No.
What's going to happen if you hold your breath for too long?
Pass out and
You're gonna
start breathing.
You're going to pass out and your body's going to try breathing for you. Okay? And we're going to go back and visit the brainstem again because we didn't cover what the parts of the brainstem are. There are three parts to your brainstem.
Midbrain.
Midbrain,
Pons. Medulla oblongata.
okay. So we're going to talk just a little bit about the spinal cord. The spinal cord is an extension of the brainstem. And most of the nerves that govern your body's functions come off of the spinal cord at some point. Okay, they come through your vertebrae and off the spinal cord. And if you look at, there's somewhere in, maybe not in this one. I have a new book this year, I'm sorry. Okay, never mind. I was going to say, if you look, you'll see where the nerves come out at and what they're responsible for, but you won't. Okay. I need to blow my nose. Will you stop that?